Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's speed reading crash course. My name is Cynthia, one of the instructors with Iris Reading based out of Chicago. Happy to see you in the audience today. If you have any questions, please drop them in the chat. This is a live session. This isn't pre-recorded. We are actually here. So if you have any questions, we can address them while here. We'll also share our email at the end of the presentation. You're more than welcome to check out our website as well, irisreading.com. Presentation, once again, is brought to you by irisreading.com, and we are actually known for our speed reading workshop. That is like the #1 thing that Iris Reading does. So if you've maybe never taken a speed reading workshop, we hope that you do enjoy the presentation. We have a link on the screen right now, irisreading.com/handouts. So we will be using a few of these documents throughout the presentation. You don't have to put this in a separate tab in your browser. You can just read it off of my screen. It's just if the font is maybe too small, you're more than welcome to pop that in a separate tab in your browser. We are on social media. 2023 was the year we made the leap over to social media. So if you want to see what we're doing, what's coming new to Iris Reading, please check us out. We are on Facebook, on Instagram, on TikTok, and obviously you are watching us live today on YouTube. As we mentioned, today we're talking about speed reading. If you're maybe a little apprehensive about speed reading, you're not 100% sold on it, you think that speed readers skip words, you think there's no way to actually speed read something effectively, anything like that, we hope that you enjoy the presentation again. We offer other workshops here at Iris Reading as well. This one particularly has been taught in over 100 cities around the world. So we're very, very proud of that. And speaking of cities, we did mention I'm broadcasting live from Chicago. If you'd like to share where you're joining us from today, and or also if you've ever heard of us here at Iris Reading. Now with the travel restrictions lifted, we are able to travel once again freely throughout the United States and other countries to teach these workshops. So if you've never heard of us, this is a great opportunity to let us know, because we might just have to take a field trip over to a city by you. So a few things that we'll cover in today's presentation. First off, how fast you currently read. We need to see that, right? We will be, and usually when we offer this workshop live, we have a few handouts, one of them being a progress sheet. So if you maybe want to pull out a piece of paper or a sticky note or write it in your phone, we're going to measure your reading speed at the beginning of the presentation, and then we're going to measure it in the middle and at the end. And we're going to see if we see some progress throughout the presentation, okay? So in order to see that, we have to establish a baseline. Now, please don't feel like you have to share this with everyone. You do not, unless you want to. You're more than welcome to do that. We're going to talk about improving your focus while reading as well. Unfortunately, we have so many distractions nowadays with the glare from the laptop screen and the glare from your cell phone and TikTok and all the social media and everything that's going on in the world. It's so hard for us to pay attention now, isn't it? And so we have actually discovered something that is a very cost-effective, very easy to do, and it's actually backed by science as well. So we hope that you enjoy it and make use of this method once we share. We'll talk about improving comprehension. So most people maybe think that speed reading is more so just getting through the content quickly and not necessarily understanding it, which is not the case at all. We are Iris Reading, which means that we are equally invested in you comprehending the material and wanting for you to get through it quickly. So we'll talk about a few strategies to help boost that comprehension, but we also have a brand new workshop that we launched this year to help deepen your comprehension on a specific subject. So if you're maybe feeling like you're learning something and you have no idea what questions you should be asking, what the best method is to go about learning this, then check out that workshop. Okay, it's called Improving Comprehension. We launched it this year. We've seen some pretty good response from our participants that have taken this workshop. So we'd love to hear your feedback on that. And again, you're more than welcome to check that out. Moving on to, oh, Florida, and I haven't heard of Iris Reading before this. Well, welcome. Happy to see you here today. We actually have a second office in Florida. So our first office is in almost downtown Chicago, right at the border. And unless that is downtown. And our second office is actually in the Miami area. So, hey, neighbor, nice to see you. Thanks for checking us out today. Fourth bullet point, we'll discuss how to read faster on the computer screen. Now, a lot of us, we learn how to read on paper with books. So maybe this new generation of kids that's in kindergarten now is learning how to read on laptops and iPads and Kindles, but I don't think any of us did, right? So we've actually developed an application that can help train your eyes to read faster on the computer screen. Obviously, we know it's very different. Not very different, but it is somewhat different to read on the computer screen versus reading on paper. We'll talk about building up speed with practice. So practice makes perfect. We love practice. How do you practice reading faster? Is that even a thing? Yes, it is. And we'll talk about that in a moment as well. And our final bullet point for today will be strategies for reading complex information. So we are thinking more so if you're reading something for fun, let's say you're reading like Harry Potter, and then you go to class, you're in med school, you're in law school, and you're reading something out of a textbook, a college textbook. So what reading strategies are you using when you're reading that textbook versus when you're reading something for fun? Are you doing the same thing? Should you do the same thing? Right? Something to think about. We think maybe reading is reading. It doesn't matter what you're reading, right? But we want to make sure we have specific tools for the job on hand, right? So if we're reading something very dense, very complex, we're going to want to have some special tools in our back pocket so that we can understand it, learn it better, everything makes better sense versus when we're reading something just for fun because we want to. Right? So we'll talk about these strategies closer to the end of the presentation. Now, our focus here at Iris Reading, we have 3 areas of focus. First being speed, obviously, right? With this being our #1 workshop, it has to be speed. Second being comprehension. And just a note, these are the 2 that we'll talk about today. Our third area of focus, and actually my favorite area, is retention. I love speed reading. I love everything with comprehension, but there's something about the memory workshop that is just, it's my favorite thing, right? So it's my favorite workshop to teach here at Iris Reading. Just a quick note though, comprehension and retention are not the same thing. Okay, most people maybe confuse them. Comprehension is understanding now, and then retention is remembering for later, whether that's the exam, a presentation, anything for later, right? So being able to pull that from your memory and putting it back. So again, if you are maybe looking for a memory workshop, now that I've mentioned it, we do offer that here at Iris Reading as well. You're more than welcome to check out the website, irisreading.com. And a side note, many people ask or write in, are you Iris? No, I am not. I am Cynthia. I don't know if there was ever an Iris as an instructor here at Iris Reading. I might have to change my name. All right, so let's get into the speed reading. So let's talk a little bit about when you first learn how to read, and then you kind of just, you read that way for the rest of your life, right? So just see a little green ball jumping across the screen. That's how most of us read, right? Unless you're reading in Arabic or in Persian or in another language that goes the other way, that's usually how we read, okay? Nothing bad per se with this, but think about things you learned how to do as a child and how over time you have gotten better at doing these things, right? Your skills have, for one, your brain has developed a little bit more, or we would hope a lot more, right, over the years. If you think about maybe riding a bike, you don't start off with just the two wheels, right? Some of us, or most of us, start with training wheels. And so in order for you to learn how the bike works, right, how to use the pedals, how to balance yourself, you got those training wheels there as support. But with time, you want to go faster on that bike. In order to go faster, those training wheels, they have to go because they actually slow you down. Same thing with reading. We use some training wheels sometimes that we learned back when we were in kindergarten, but in order to go faster, we gotta throw those aside. Okay, so we'll talk about 3 old reading habits, 3 things that you may be doing right now that may be slowing down the speed of your reading. Okay, now if you identify with any of them, that is fine. That's why we're here today. We're going to talk about why they slow you down, and more importantly, how to get rid of them, or at least how to push them to an area of your brain where they do not disturb you or slow you down. Okay, so the first old reading habit is fixation. Now, fixation is, it's in the name, right? It's where you're fixating on every single word as you are reading. Now, why is this a not so great thing? Because we are capable of picking up more than one word at a time. So if we're able to do that, then why not do that, right? Think about this. When you're driving, you're able to pick up groups of words, like on billboards or street signs. You're able to pick up the sign very, very quickly with your eyes, maybe 2 seconds or less. So if we're able to do that, why can't we do it when reading just normally, right? I'll tell you why. Because we learn how to read only one word at a time, and it's comfortable. Most of us have probably been reading one word at a time all our lives. I'm going to tell you my age, but the point is, let's just say 45, 50 years we've been reading the same way, right? So we wanna break out of that by trying to pick up groups of words. Okay, maybe 2 words at a time or 3 words at a time. Now, this isn't going to feel really comfortable in the beginning, right? But that's okay. We just have to continue to practice. Now, keep in mind, when we're talking about these old reading habits, we're talking about boosting our speed, all right? Comprehension is something that we will tie in the second half of the presentation. All right, so no worries. Somebody's like, well, if I'm reading more than one word at a time, I'm not going to understand it. No. We are talking right now about speed. In a moment, about 20 minutes, we'll talk about incorporating that comprehension. Okay, so the first one is fixation, only picking up one word at a time. Let's try to not do that. Try to pick up 2, 3 words at a time. That program that I told you my colleagues developed when reading on the computer screen, it's also something that can be used to help train your eyes to pick up more than one word at a time. So I'll share that as well. Now, second old reading habit is regression. Now, what is regression? It's going back and rereading. Is that a bad thing? Sometimes. Okay, think about this. See if you can remember back in like 2nd or 3rd grade, you would receive an assignment from your teacher, something maybe we remember doing like a reading and answering a few questions type of assignment, right? So we read the passage, we'd answer the questions. If we didn't understand something in the passage, what would our teacher usually tell us to do? Go back and reread, right? Now, sometimes we take that principle of going back and rereading and we use it where we shouldn't. For example, you're reading something, you read one sentence and it doesn't make sense. So you go back and you read the same sentence again. And it doesn't make sense again. So you read it one more time because you hear the voice of your teacher from 3rd grade saying, go back and reread it. It's almost like it's been beaten to us, right? Now, there's only so many times you can read that sentence before you either get bored or give up. But the point is that reading the same sentence over and over isn't necessarily going to get us anywhere. But let's think about something else we learned a long time ago that seems to be one of the first things we forget when we are trying to read and study and learn. And that is that the first sentence of each paragraph is usually the main idea, right? Sometimes, the majority of the times. And everything else that follows is a supporting sentence or a supporting fact. So we learned that the structure of a paragraph, everything works together, right? So is it possible that we don't understand this one sentence because they haven't read the next sentence or the next sentence, or we haven't finished reading the paragraph, right? Think about this when you're maybe watching something on Netflix or Hulu. Let's say you're watching it in the opening scene, somebody's running, or for example, if maybe you're not a Marvel fan and you went to go see the new Guardians of the Galaxy movie that just came out a couple weeks ago. I mean, it's a great movie, but without the context, it's hard to really understand everything that's going on, right? So you kind of have to go back and see the other, right, the other ones to understand everything in this series. So same thing with reading the same sentence over and over. You don't want to read the same sentence over and over, but what you do want to do is try to get through the whole paragraph so that you can understand where this is coming from and what the context is. All right, so reading that same sentence, please don't do it. I know a lot of us are guilty of doing that. It's just, again, we kind of get in mechanical mode, and it's like a default thing where we read it over and over again, and then we get discouraged. So let's try to not do that, okay? Let's try to read the whole paragraph, and then after, if it still doesn't make sense, then we can go back and at least reread the paragraph. Now, the third old reading habit is sub-vocalization. And have you ever noticed that you hear some voice in your head when you're reading? And it's not your conscience. It's not like from Pinocchio, right? Jiminy Cricket, he's like, always use your conscience as your guide, which I agree with, but this is not the same voice. We're talking about another voice, okay? So when you're reading, you do actually hear something that is narrating everything that you're reading. Maybe you hear it in your voice, or maybe you hear it in like someone who's got a really cool voice, like who in Hollywood is a great narrator, like Morgan Freeman, right? Or David Attenborough. They have tremendous voices. So maybe you hear their voice. The point is you hear a voice, right? Now, before we get into why this slows you down, and more importantly, how, we have to do our first speed test. We need to see first how fast you're reading, right? We said bullet point number 1, we need to establish a baseline. So at this time, go ahead and check out that link, irisreading.com/handouts. And when you open that, now I'm going to share it on my screen as well. So if you don't want to, type it in a separate tab browser, you don't have to. But it's speed test number 1, okay? Now it looks like this. Now for those of you that are trying to access the link now, please don't read the article because we don't want anybody to get ahead. So just a quick note, you'll notice the title, The Age of Distraction by Leo Babauta. Here's our passage. Here are the word counts, okay? So this is, we're going to read for 1 minute. You're going to make a note of wherever you finish reading. So let's say, for example, you make to the word and then I interrupt you at the minute mark. That means that you would have almost read 206 words in 1 minute, all right? But not 206. So wherever you finish, you're going to have to subtract however many words you didn't read from the total right here in the end. So if you made it to end, you subtract 2 from 206, and that would be your word count per minute, okay? If you make it to the end of the line, then obviously you count that as your word per minute, okay? So I will disable my webcam for this exercise. We will read for 1 minute. Please don't get ahead. Please. All right, we want to make sure we have an accurate reading. Got my timer ready to go. Here we go. We are going to read for 1 minute. Ready? 3, 2, 1, go. and stop. That was 1 minute. All right, so let's go ahead and calculate our speed. Now you might be wondering, curious, am I reading faster than your average person? Am I reading slower than your average person? Well, let's get into the averages, okay? So the average is 150 to 250 words per minute. That is the average. Now, if you're not in the average, that's okay, right? That's why we're here today. And if you're above the average, that's okay too, because we can continue to make progress. We don't want you to just stop at, okay, well, I'm here, I'm where I should be, so that's good enough. Time seems to be running out, right? For people, we feel like we have less and less time. So what harm could come from reading faster and faster? Now, keep in mind that if English is not your first language, then and you're still learning how to speak and read it, then this actually doesn't pertain to you. All right, it wouldn't be a fair assessment seeing that you're still building up your vocab list. Okay, so if English again is not something that you speak well, you're not comfortable speaking or reading, then this doesn't necessarily make sense. Now, if you have attended university or you are in university, this is the average, 200 to 300 words per minute. All right, and again, if you're not in this average, that's okay. It just means we have to keep on practicing. Now, some of you may even be above the average, and that's great. And we want to keep on improving, keep increasing our speeds, okay? So no worries. Now, you might be wondering the average on the computer screen, it's about 136 words per minute, okay? And one of the reasons being we actually don't learn how to read on the computer screen. So that's why it's a little slower than your average reading speed. Now, if you want to share what your reading speed was for this first drill that we did, you're more than welcome to. Again, no pressure, you don't have to. But let's get back into this sub-vocalization, that little voice inside of your head that is narrating everything. And you see, the problem with that is that that voice is really only going as fast as you can talk, okay? Now, that would be a good thing if the average talking speed was maybe faster than the average reading speed, but it isn't. It's the same thing. Okay, it's 150 to 250 words per minute. So what then could be faster than our average talking speed? And I'll give you a hint. It is actually in our tagline. It's our tagline on our website at Iris Reading. It's reading at the speed of thought. So we want you to read as fast as you can think, not as fast as you can talk. Now think about thinking about all the things you can think about in 5-6 seconds. That's a lot of stuff. But you can't necessarily vocalize what you're thinking in the exact same speed, right? Sometimes it's kind of hard for us to vocalize everything. 409 words for me. I read a lot on my phone. Aswander, thank you for sharing that. That's great. I feel like that would strain my eyes reading on my screen. And I have one of the larger iPhones, but even that, I feel like I'd need a magnifying glass. But that's really good. That's tremendous. Thank you for sharing. We've got a good starting speed for you. So 150 to 250 words per minute, we say, is the average talking speed as well. Okay, so we want to read as fast as you can think. Now, what are some things that can help train us to read as fast as we think and not as fast as we talk? Well, one of them means just to push yourself to read like 20% faster than you're comfortable reading. Now, this is good because it's actually going to leave that voice you hear back somewhere. It's going to leave it behind, and you are going to read faster. So it's not giving the voice a chance to catch up with you. Something else that you can do is putting on some kind of background sound or some background music, maybe sitting in a cafe where there's a little bit of noise. This is good because it kind of helps to drown out that sound or that voice inside of your head. So again, it doesn't slow you down. Okay, so those are two suggestions to kind of get rid of, or not necessarily get rid of, because a lot of people claim that the only way to get faster is to completely eliminate the voice inside of your head. And here at Iris Reading, none of us have a switch or a button to turn that off, and we'd imagine that our participants don't either. So what we can do is work around it, right? We can push it to a far corner in our brains and maybe throw a pillow on top of it or something so that it doesn't necessarily slow us down, okay? And that is subvocalization. Now, moving on to improving concentration. This seems to be so hard for us nowadays, and it's understandable. We have a lot of distractions. We spend a lot of time on our phone, and that actually causes our brain to become hyperstimulated, which means that it's harder for us to pay, again, attention, right? We need to constantly be stimulated with lights and video and sounds and everything. It's hard for us to sit still and to just read a book for a lot of people, and it's understandable, right? Maybe some of it is due to over caffeination, but the problem is that sometimes we don't really have the option of not concentrating or not paying attention. So what do we do when we're in a pickle, right? We're in the situation where we have to pay attention, but we can't, we're distracted. Simple suggestion, something that is actually backed by science, is using your hand or pen as a guide. Okay, and this is why. Think about this. I'm sure you can see where I'm sitting right now. I have a green wall behind me, nothing too much in my background. So if a bird or a bee or a bat or something, God forbid, was to fly in here right now, and you see it flying around me, would you be able to pay attention to me, or would you pay attention to whatever's flying around me, right? Our eyes would follow whatever is flying, right? Because our eyes are attracted to movement, and that's totally normal. And most people would see that as a bad thing, but we can use that to our advantage. So when we start to feel distracted, or we want to just look up at the ceiling, there was this meme I found the other day where it's like, it's easy for people, like you suddenly find the wall fascinating when you have to read something, like you're like, oh my God, that's such a cool looking wall. Like, it's hard for us to pay attention. We even get distracted with a bare wall. So using your hand or pen as a guide is forcing you to look down at the page, at the book, at whatever it is you need to read, and not to what is happening around you. Okay, so it's forcing you to go this way and not everywhere else. But reading on the computer screen, it's a little different. You can't necessarily use your hand or finger as a guide, because if you're using an iPad, a Kindle, anything like that, it's touchscreen, and we're going to have a problem. So we have actually created, and let me get rid of this, I'm sorry. We have created an application here at Iris Reading, and it is called Accelerator. And so it looks like this. You just type in your browser, accelerator.com, and you copy and paste some text into the box. This is what I have decided to use for this morning. I'm not sure if any of you are watching from Chicago, but this weekend was not that great in Chicago. We won't say why. Maybe you'll just pull it from the title. But the title of this article we took from The Onion, who is America's finest news source, in case anyone was wondering. It's called "Snowstorm in Chicago Delays Hundreds of Morning Murders." Okay, and so what I just did, I copied it and pasted it into Accelerator. All right, and then when you hit begin, you're going to notice I dropped 166 words at 150 words per minute. So I want to quickly share the settings with you. You can customize this speed, and I encourage you to do that. You'll notice closer to the end of the presentation why this is a benefit to you. You can change the chunk size. So if you want to see the amount of words that you see at a time, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever it is that you want, the window width, the window height, the font size, okay? And then we want you to start the new chunks at ends of sentences and of paragraphs. This should always be clicked off. We don't want you to be thrown off by any punctuation or anything like that, okay? So you hit save. And Accelerator actually mimics using your hand or finger as a guide, because if you were pointing, you would be pointing to groups of words. Can't do that on the screen. I mean, you could, but it might not feel very comfortable. And so this is going to shoot the words out at you, 2, 3, 4, however many words you want at a time. And you have to pay attention, because if you do not pay attention, then you will you'll lose your place and you'll have to start this all over again. So what we're going to do is we are going to read through this article again entitled, what is it called? Snowstorm in Chicago delays hundreds of morning murders. And I will disable my webcam while we read this. Here we go, everyone. Go ahead and start. Okie dokie. So that was the article from The Onion, which is also based out of Chicago, in case anyone was wondering. So this is reading on the computer screen, okay? You are more than welcome to use this application. Again, it's called accelerator.com. Or I'm sorry, it's called Accelerator, and you can find it at accelerator.com. Free application to use. You don't have to sign up to use it. I think we are working on making this an app, like an actual app that you can download. Right now, you can only find it online, and you do need internet to use this. Okay, but it's a great tool to use, again, to help you when reading on the computer screen. Now, how do we get better at anything? Practice, right? We're big basketball fans here at Irish Reading as well. So we're going to do something called speed drills. And now, if you play a sport, you may be familiar with speed drills. We're going to purposely go faster than you normally read. Okay, now you're maybe thinking, well, if I'm going faster, I'm not going to understand what I'm reading. But keep in mind, at the beginning, we said first half of the presentation is strictly dedicated to speed. So we do not want you to worry about comprehension yet. Now, even think about this. If you play basketball, for example, there are three areas of focus, right? There's offense, there's defense, and there's strength and conditioning, right? Can you focus on all three at the same time? I don't think you can do that with any sport, really, right? And so right now we want to focus on speed, because if I'm asking you to read faster, I should first train your eyeballs to see the words faster on the page, right? And then we can tie in comprehension. Okay, so this is what we're going to do. Remember this article that we read for 1 minute at the beginning. I hope everyone remembers where they finished reading in the article after the minute. Okay, so I'm going to give you 40 seconds to essentially skim through 1 minute of reading. Okay, and you're going to be doing something like this. So I don't know if you can see my eyeballs, but they're just going left to right, left to right, left to right. Okay, maybe right to left on your side. So 40 seconds to get through everything you read for 1 minute. We're training our eyes to see the words faster on that screen. Okay, and I will disable my webcam for this, so I don't want to distract anybody. I'll have a timer going on this end, so I'm giving you 40 seconds to get through 1 minute of reading. We're going to do this drill 1, 2, 3, 5 times, okay? So we're going to see if we make some progress after these drills. Here we go, everyone. First drill, 40 seconds. Ready? 3, 2, 1, go. All right, stop. That was 40 seconds. I am now wondering if you made it. Did you make it to that point where you finished reading after? Remember in the beginning we read for 1 minute. That was your goal. That's where you wanted to make it in the article. 40 seconds to get to that point. Okay, so if you made it, very good job. If you didn't, that's okay. It's going to feel like a little bit of a workout for your eyeballs, okay? So we're going to try this again. 35 seconds, same drill, back to the top of the article. Okay, I'm giving you 35 seconds to get through a minute of reading. Are you ready? Here we go. 3, 2, 1, go. All right, very good. That was 35 seconds. Okay, 35 seconds to get through a minute of reading. If you made it, very good job. If you didn't, that's okay. We've got 3 more drills, all right? So we're going to keep on practicing. Next drill, I'm giving you 30 seconds to get through a minute of reading, okay? Here we go. 3, 2, 1, go. And stop. That was a 30-second drill. Okay. Now we're going to change it up. We're going to spice up the drill. I'm going to give you a minute and 30 seconds to get through the entire page. All right. So a minute and 30 to get through the whole page of text. Now you're going to be thinking, I don't know if that's enough time. Yes, it is. You guys can do this. You can do anything. Okay. So here we go. I'll give you a minute to kind of stretch, get comfortable in your chair, wherever you're watching this. A minute and 30 to get through the whole page. All right, here we go. Ready? 3, 2, 1, go. And stop. That was a minute and 30 seconds. Let us know in the chat if you made it. If you didn't make it, let us know how you're feeling. This might make your eyes feel kind of tired. Fun fact, scientifically seen that when you rub your eyes, so you know how in the morning when you maybe wake up, you rub your eyes, it's actually seen to kind of feel something in your chest sometimes. It's like a natural way to relieve a little bit of stress. So if you're feeling like this is a lot for you right now, go ahead and give your eyeballs a quick rub, okay, just to kind of relax and not stress out. This isn't something that should be stressful, okay? And we're going to do this one more time. Final drill for today, giving you 1 minute and 15 seconds from the top to the bottom. So you got to get through the whole thing, okay? All 581 words. And I'm sure that you can do this. I'm positive. If you make it before the time is up, go ahead and hit the like button, and that'll let us know that you've made it. All right. This is a nice way to keep progress. Okay. So here we go. 1 minute and 15 to go from the top to the bottom. Are you ready? Here we go. 3, 2, 1, go. And stop. Very good. Did you make it? Let us know by hitting the like button or letting us know in the chat as well. Let us know if you made it to the end. Now, keep in mind, this is only a handful of drills. Some unofficial homework will be for you to continue to do this, and I will break that down in a moment. But now, we have to go back to normal reading, right? Normal reading, and we're going to see if these drills maybe helped us read just a little bit faster. Okay, so again, irisreading.com/handouts. You're going to look for the article entitled Speed Test Number 2 in that Dropbox link. When you pop it open, it should read How Distraction Hurts Creativity by Leo Babauta. Okay, we're going to do a minute of reading, normal reading, and then I'm going to ask for your reading speed a second time, and we're going to see if the second speed is maybe faster than the first speed. All right. And again, I will disable my webcam. I don't want to distract anybody with any of the faces that I may be making. So let me get my timer ready to go here. Hopefully everyone has the article. Please don't read ahead, all right? Here we go. 1 minute of reading. 3, 2, 1, go. And stop. Okay, so that was 1 minute. Now, if you want to share calculate your reading speed, share what your reading speed was the second time. Hopefully it was a little higher, so hopefully we are seeing an improvement. If not, that's okay. Again, we only did a handful of drills, so we have to keep on practicing, okay? And even if you didn't make improvement, you still get the success, baby, as well. That was a lot of exercise for your eyeballs so early in the morning. Let me quickly share how these speed drills actually work, okay? You know, when you're maybe on a road trip, you're driving to New York, to Missouri, to Kansas, to wherever, right? And let's say you're on the expressway for 3-4 hours, you're going at a speed of 60 or 70 miles an hour. You kind of get used to going at that speed for a long time, right? So what happens when you get off on the normal street or the normal road? Then what? Sometimes you want to go just as fast, even though you shouldn't. Same thing with these speed drills, right? You train your eyes to see the words quickly, quickly, and then all of a sudden when you go back to normal reading, your eyes are like, boom, boom, let's keep going, right? Let's keep this up. So that is how the speed drills work. And again, that unofficial homework, we want you to continue to practice these speed drills. We'll share that at the end of the presentation. Now let's talk about how to improve your comprehension. This is important, right? It's not just about speed. We actually want you to understand, and we really want you to have strategy down when we're reading anything. We don't want you to just read and go willy-nilly. We want you to actually have a plan as to how you are going to best and quickly understand this material. We do a lot of driving here at Iris Reading, and a lot of flying as well, but we visited a few towns and have some pretty curvy hills and some pretty steep mountains, right? We don't have any of those in Chicago. It's pretty flat. Actually, the whole state of Illinois, I would imagine, is very flat. But we have gone to some states that have really left us surprised. We were actually in Puerto Rico around this time last year, and let me tell you, those mountains, there's no protection from you and imminent death on the other side of the mountain. Like, it's very steep. But anyway, let's say hypothetically we were all on a road trip together and we are at the top of this hill and we've got to drive down it. We would not go 60 miles an hour because that is a great way to just not make it, right? So we have to, again, use a little bit of strategy here, slow down in certain areas, speed up in certain areas. Same strategy can be used when reading. Let's say we were going to read this article together, India Skills Famine, okay? Now, if we slow down and read the first sentences of each paragraph, then speed up and read through the rest of it, you should have a pretty good idea of what we're reading. Right? And when we say slow down, we don't mean like physically read it slowly. We mean more like just be a little more analytical about this first sentence, right? Because again, we've already mentioned first sentence of each paragraph is the main idea. So if we're analytical about the main ideas in the article, we should have come out of here reading, understanding a lot just by reading the first sentences of each paragraph. Let's test it out. It says the economic transformation of India is one of the great business stories of our time. Very good. Okay. But India has run into a surprising hitch on its way to superpower status. Its inexhaustible supply of workers is becoming exhausted. Nice. How is this possible in a country that every year produces 2.5 million college graduates and 400,000 engineers? There was a time when many economists believed that post-secondary education didn't have much impact on economic growth. The irony of the current situation is that India was once considered to be overeducated. Since the Second World War, the countries that have made successful leaps from developing to developed status have all poured money, public and private, into education. India has taken tentative steps to remedy its skills famine. The current government has made noises about doubling spending on education, and a host of new colleges and universities have sprung up since the mid-90s. So what we did, we read all of the first sentences. It did force us to pay a little more attention than we usually would, right? Because again, we're only reading 7 sentences versus reading 7 paragraphs. I mean, you think about reading, somebody says, here, read this all right now. You're like, oh, I don't want to, right? But just reading the first sentences, paid attention, also gave us a nice idea of what to expect. And that introduces a very, 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 with capital bold letters and underlined and italicized and glitter. When I say very, important principle here at Iris Reading, which is to inspect what you read before you read it, okay? For example, reading the first sentences of each paragraph is considered an inspection. Okay, it's a part of inspecting. Now we know what to expect. Now we know if we have to read this, if we want to read it, if we've had enough coffee to read it, right? And then we can decide if this is actually something worth our time. And this is really good for specifically college students, undergrad, grad school. If you've got a professor, as I do, I'm also a student going for a PhD in educational psychology. Feels like I'm reading at least 10 hours a day nowadays. Um, you want to have this in your back pocket because you might have a professor like I do where he'll send things over the weekend and he's like, you have to read this. This is really important. And then I inspect it and I'm like, I don't care about cats. Like, I'm not, what does this have to do with anything, right? So inspecting can help prioritize what you read now versus what you read later. So if you're maybe going to inspect something out of a textbook, right? A chapter out of a textbook, these are all the things that you would look for. Now keep in mind you can inspect anything you need to read, whether that's a chapter out of a book, a report, a journal article, I don't know, like a 7-page menu. I mean, anything can be inspected, okay? You want to look for the intro, headings and subheadings, words in bold and or italics, the title of charts, tables, and diagrams, the conclusion, as well as any questions that may be published in this. So all of these things you want to look for, actively read them as you are inspecting. It's like an appetizer before the entree, right? Gives you a taste of what to expect. Same thing with inspecting. So if we were maybe inspecting this chapter out of a business textbook, goals and governance, of the firm. Everything in the red box looks to be like an intro, so we would actively read through all of this. We've got the heading, we've got the vocabulary words, we see some subheadings, we see some references, so we're just kind of combing through here to see what's happening, right? We see the table, and we're not really concerned with the details inside the table, more so the descriptive sentence underneath the table, okay? We've got the another subheading, some more vocab words. So it doesn't look like there's anything too spicy here, right? Some more vocabulary words, another subheading. Okay, so we have actively inspected through this article. Now we can think about everything we read and see if it matches up with anything we know will happen tomorrow in class or in our coursework. It's ringing some bells. If you decide, you know what, yeah, I actually do have to read this, then fine. But we already read the intro, so we don't have to read it again. And I know that's a common sense suggestion, but you'd be surprised. Sometimes we're kind of just like on mechanical mode and we're like, no, I got to read it again. No, we don't. Not if we already paid attention. We don't have to do that. So we would move on just to the beginning of the chapter, okay? So we did mention we're Iris Reading. We have an acronym, a 4-step process to better reading and learning. The I, as you have gleaned now from this all, is to inspect anything you need to read before you read it, followed by actually reading it or deciding to not read it. That's cool too, but the inspection can help you decide. Let's actually inspect something together, okay? We have a article, again, back to the Dropbox link. We're going to go to single tasking. So again, irisreading.com/handouts, single tasking PDF, okay? It looks like this, single tasking and productivity. So let us inspect this all together. Let's make it a little easier for us. So I'll just highlight everything there. So we've got our introductory quote, introductory paragraph, and all of the headings. So I'm sorry, all of the subheadings. So we are going to just read what is highlighted and then we will just pause there. Okay, so I will disable my webcam. I'm going to give you all like a minute to just read through everything that is in yellow. Don't read anything else. Okay, here we go. Go ahead and start. All right, very good. So we just inspected. Now we're going to finish reading the article. Okay. So keep in mind everything we talked about with inspecting. If you already read it, then please don't read it again, right? Because we were actively reading. So we're going to now finish reading the article. And you'll notice there's a timer that will be beeping away down here. It'll give you up to 4 minutes to finish reading the article. Now, I want you to make a note of your final time because that will match up with a final speed for today. So if it takes you 2 minutes to finish reading the article, that means that your final reading speed for today would be 421 words per minute. Okay? So again, make a note of the final time down here, match it up with a speed up here. Okay? Now, if we do not need to leave the timer running all the way through, it will go up to 4 minutes, but if you all finish reading before that, then we can keep this going, okay? And a good way to let us know is to either drop it in the chat or hit the like button so that we are aware, okay? So here we go, about to give you 4 minutes to finish reading the article. Ready? 3, 2, 1, go. All right, everyone, very good. So that was 4 minutes. If you want to share your final speed, if you've noticed a gradual improvement throughout the presentation, that is great. We give you a round of applause. If not, that's okay. Just means we have to practice. You can always send us an email, cynthia@irisreading.com. You can check out our website, drop us a message there. Let's finish up the IRIS method. So we're talking about inspecting and reading. We didn't necessarily talk about inquire or storing, okay? So that is the 4-step process. We want to make sure first you inspect, then you read, then we want you to ask questions based on what you feeling a little called out by the article though. This is something I'm very guilty of. Aswander, thank you for sharing. Actually, if you want a copy of the book, Leo Babauta, the author, has actually given us permission. If you would like to read the whole book, we do have it. So I'll share my email at the end of the presentation. You can send me an email and I can get that to you if you feel like maybe you should read the rest of the book. Not a problem. Thank you for sharing. Now, we didn't talk about asking questions or storing, but theoretically, hypothetically, the coffee has not kicked in yet. We want you to inspect first, then decide if you're going to read or not. Then we want you to ask questions. Now, if you don't know what questions you should be asking, you should check out our comprehension or improving comprehensions workshop. Make sure you can answer all of the questions that you are asking, right? Because that lets us know if we're understanding something or not. And unfortunately, what most people will do is they will just kind of move on to trying to memorize something they don't get. So we want you to inspect, decide if you're going to read or not. If you do decide to read, make sure you understand it by asking questions and answering those questions, and then moving on to the final step, which is eventually either memorizing it or writing it down in your notes. Okay, so this is our 4-step process to better reading and learning. Now, we didn't necessarily talk about storing, but we did talk about speed. We did a lot of speed drills, so we're going to substitute that as for speed drill. Unofficial homework, going to give you some. Again, I can't check if you do it, but if you want to let me know, you can send me an email. So we're going to have you practice these speed drills, see the words at double the speed. So if your final speed for today, let's say, was 350 words per minute, then that just means that you have to practice at 700 words per minute. Okay, so what you'd be doing is reading through any material you'd like, then do a speed drill in that material. So skim through what you just read in half the time at double the speed. Do at least 10 minutes of drills every day. We should hopefully see some improvement. So a run of how this would work. You would inspect, you would read, you would time yourself. Let's say you're reading for 20 minutes, ask questions, and then do a 10-minute speed drill. Or you read for 12 minutes and do a 6-minute speed drill, okay? Don't forget about Accelerator. It is a great tool to use when reading or trying to pay attention on the computer screen. Let's do a quick recap of everything we talked about. Here is our IRIS method one more time. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat or send me an email. I'll do a quick summary of everything, and then I actually have a discount code in case you are interested, okay? So talked about how fast you currently read. We talked about improving focus while reading, improving comprehension. So with improving focus, you use your hand or finger as a guide. Improving comprehension, we were reading all of the first sentences of each paragraph, reading faster on the computer screen with Accelerator, building up speed with practice. We did a lot of speed drills, and then strategies for reading complex information. We talked about slowing down, speeding up, right? We talked about inspecting again there. So this is our summary. If you have any other questions, I'm sorry, I didn't realize I took my email off of this slide, but if you want to just reach out, cynthia@irisreading.com, you want to check out our social media, you can send us a message on there as well. Thank you all once again for coming, and we hope to see you in a future workshop. See you later. Bye.